Anyone who has claimed at any point along this process that they knew what was going to end up happening in the case of Jussie Smollett is a liar, okay? Because stuff is evolving fast. And as of yesterday, all charges have been dropped against him. And joining us now to help break this down and where we go from here, attorney and contributor to both TYT and AM to DM, Adrienne Lawrence. Welcome to Damage Report.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. We could really use your expertise on this. So Chicago prosecutors have dropped all charges against him. And although they say that they still believe that he is guilty of something at the very least, what do you make of this?
You know what? This is one of those circumstances where you have to look at that prosecutor's office and also that state. And the thing is, unfortunately, Illinois, it's number one in public corruption situations. It is. And for the entire country, they had 1,731 federal public corruption convictions since 1976. They lead the way. And so to see something like this go down, it's not really that shocking. The fact is they had sufficient evidence. They had a grand jury indictment, 16 felony counts. It's just someone very powerful made a phone call, and now Jussie Smollett's essentially paid $10,000 to get out of jail.
So that part as well is very interesting. The $10,000, where does that actually go? And is this a normal thing that happens in cases like this? Not that there are any cases like this.
Yeah, this is actually kind of special. For him to forfeit the $10,000 bond, hey man, like it's just, I think that's because that's why the state's attorney's office, when they said, considering all the facts and that he's going to forfeit the $10,000 bond, we're not going to proceed with this case anymore. It just seems like he's getting paid for it and it'll stay within the court system.
Interesting. I've seen some people, so Jussie Smollett has put out a statement saying that he maintains his innocence. I had seen in advance of that people saying that he should probably just count his blessings and not say anything. Do you think that he might attempt to take this further, that he might attempt to sue the police department or someone in relation to the experience he went through?
No, not to jump in, but no, I don't think he will, because he doesn't want to be in a situation where he has to prove that there's no validity to those allegations against him. It definitely seems like it's a $10,000 payment, and keep it pushing. The thing that really kind of really resonates with me is the fact that he did get a 16-count felony disorderly conduct indictment that carries 1 to 3 years in prison apiece.
Wow.
So he was facing 16 to 48 years in prison.
Jesus.
The reality is, whoever maybe made a phone call, so I speculate, it really realized that this could end up being a true miscarriage of justice. But unfortunately, that is how our system works. And if the people in the city of Chicago, if that was their conclusion as members of the jury, then that is the system and how it should work. No one should be making phone calls to get people out of jail or out of charges. But at the same time, I do appreciate the fact that 16-count felony indictment facing up to 48 years in prison is a little excessive.
Adrienne, it's JR. Okay, so for people who don't understand how it works, so these the prosecutors dropped all charges, exonerated, closed the case, shut it down, never going to be seen or heard from again. And then apparently, because a powerful person, influential person made a phone call. How often does this happen when, under normal circumstances, under basic judicial circumstances, does this happen where a prosecutor will drop charges? What could happen within a case that would make them, after seeing all this evidence and after all these charges being brought forward, make them say, you know, we're going to drop it, and it is legitimate?
Oh, and again, I am just speculating that someone made a phone call. But in situations where a prosecutor may have a legit case against someone and there is no outside influence to get them to drop it, it might be a number of factors. For instance, maybe the charges against that individual are not that significant, or the individual has actually rehabilitated themselves, and in the interest of justice, it might be best to let them move on with their lives. Or maybe that information or that individual is providing information that is being very useful and has been helpful to other prosecutions. There are a lot of reasons that prosecutors have the discretion to not pursue charges. The problem is when prosecutors exercise that discretion to the benefit of only a certain member of society or to the detriment of only certain defendants is when we have the problem.
Yeah, I'd also like to get your reaction to a couple of the reactions to the news of yesterday. There are a lot of people who reacted very strongly to finding out that there would not be any pursuit of charges or jail time or anything like that. Fox News was all about it yesterday. So first of all, though, Mayor Rahm Emanuel has been going around on TV, and he had this to say.
Did this all in the name of self-promotion. And he used the laws of the hate crime legislation that all of us collectively over years have put on the books to stand up to be the values that embody what we believe in. This is a whitewash of justice.
So do you agree with the overall idea that this is a whitewash of justice? And I'm also curious, that particular terminology to me sort of stood out as maybe carefully selected words. What do you think about that?
Oh, I definitely think the words were carefully selected, and I do not know what to think of his using the term necessarily whitewash. But I would almost assume it's in the context of the quid pro quo, I give up 10 grand and you let me go. So that's kind of what I would think in terms of maybe the prosecutor's idea of justice in that instance, but I do not know. I do understand Rahm Emanuel's his rage with this situation, because essentially, there are a lot of hate crimes going on, and he undermined it for all of the individuals and all of the marginalized members of society who the hate crimes were essentially created as legislation and passed in states to stop the things that would be going on in terms of racial injustice, whether it's religious or even gender hate crimes. And that's so important to a lot of us. So essentially, if the allegations were true, Jussie Smollett set us all back. So there's a lot of fury and rage, especially when you see a lot of hate crimes currently going down and the rise and the increase given the Trump administration and his actions allegedly having been played out just so he could get an increase in his Fox salary or be able to stay on his show for longer. Yeah. So essentially the motives, and they don't measure up with the sacrifice that we've all now had with hate crimes being undermined.
And I want to talk about one other sort of, I would say, category of reactions to this. People on Fox News, Fox Business, I saw James Woods. These are people who are saying that this breaks their heart because, as you've been pointing out, people who are really targets of hate crimes might be questioned in the future. Of course, I would say that all of these people saying that have never ever cared about hate crimes before in their life. But for instance, Stuart Varney said that the judicial system has been, in his words, raped. And they're pushing for some sort of federal investigation, something along those lines. Do you believe that that is likely?
As I had mentioned before, Illinois, they're the #1 city in public corruption in terms of federal prosecutions of public corruption at the state level. So pretty much the federal government has been the key player in terms of oversight for the corruption that exists at the state level there. And so essentially we need to look to the federal government to right the wrongs done by the state. And hey, there's a situation here where the FBI is not willing to comment on the investigation for Jussie Smollett when it comes to him mailing himself a allegedly forged hate crime letter. And the situation with the federal government would mean federal mail fraud, and that comes with up to 20 years of prison, up to $250,000. But again, the FBI won't comment on where that stands. The thing is we really need a check on the system for the system to operate correctly as it should. The problem also is that certain people have been getting passes forever, which is why we hear from these sudden commentators who give a damn about hate crimes. But the thing is, it's everybody really loses looking at this entire situation, because we do know that there has been serious years of public corruption, minorities and disenfranchised individuals being unfairly penalized or having members of law enforcement not be held accountable for misconduct. But at the same time, too, we know allegedly Jussie Smollett really set everyone back. So I think it really does tear at our strings on both ends in that our system is very broken.
Well, Adrienne Lawrence, we want to thank you for joining us on the show today and breaking all this down.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.